So today I've got with me the mighty Thomann bass saxophone. So big, I can't really get it in this video in this room. So I'm going to lift it up and show you all the might of this Thomann bass saxophone. So when I got this, I recorded a slightly silly multi-track video playing Flight of the Bumblebee. And a few people asked if I'd do a review of this instrument. So this is it. First thing to say about this instrument, this is sort of like the cheapest bass saxophone money can buy, really. So this cost me about £2,500 from Thomann in Germany. As far as I'm aware, there are lots of these cheap basses about, and I've heard they're all made by the same company. I think Jim Bow is the company, but if you see like the Sakusi one from sax.co.uk, Headwind Music have got one as well. I think Gear for Music have got one. And they're all essentially the same instrument. I expect the different retailers have probably requested minor changes, but essentially they're the same thing. So yeah, I kind of got this because I was curious to see how good a bass you could get for such a relatively cheap price, and whether it would work and how it would compare with other basses. And in fact, the video, I'll link it below, but that video of Flight of the Bumblebee is quite a good one because that was fresh out of the factory with nothing being done to it. And first thing to say is it did play, you can see it plays kind of straight out of the box. The one thing I'd done on that was discarded the bass mouthpiece that comes with it, because the mouthpiece it came with was, to be honest, a complete load of rubbish. It was so close, however hard a reed I put on it, I couldn't play it. So on that video, I'd actually been through a load of baritone mouthpieces and chosen my favourite one, which, interestingly, the best setup I found with a baritone mouthpiece was just a Yamaha 5C, which is a pretty cheap option. I tried some of my Selma mouthpieces, an Otolink mouthpiece on it, and none of them really made it speak, particularly at the bottom end. It was really stuffy, whereas the 5C seemed the best option. Since then, I have bought a bass mouthpiece, so I've got a Selma S80C Star bass mouthpiece on here. I find it slightly frustrating that there's such a limited supply of bass mouthpieces. So the Selma, you can only get a C Star, you can't get any other openings. And to be honest, the C Star is much smaller a tip opening than I'd like. So on my baritone, I play an E. I may well at some point get this refaced to make it more like an E. But it does mean I'm having to put quite hard reeds on it. At the moment, I've got a 3. I have played it with 4s as well. Again, Van Doren only do whole reed strengths. Probably what I really want is a 3.5. So at the moment, I'm using a 3. But anyway, back to the sax. How it was out the factory. It did play kind of the whole range, but it definitely needed some attention. So I took it into Dorks Music, and the wonderful Abby there spent probably about an hour or so tweaking some things for me. I mean, the most obvious thing wrong with it when it came out of the factory was when you pressed the low B flat key, it was opening the low C sharp as well. So there was kind of no way that was going to work. And it felt like it played down to about an F, sort of okay, and below that was kind of pretty ropey. It may well, I mean, it had been shipped from Germany, so it may just have been stuff that happened in transit. There was nothing kind of really major. A couple of other things Abby did for me. So the crook actually was quite wobbly initially, and she kind of tightened that up, which feels much more secure to play as well. One comment she did make is that the metal on it bends quite easily, which is probably not a surprise with it being cheap metal, essentially. That's how they keep the price down. But now, I mean, this bass plays across the full range. If I play right down to the bottom, it's kind of... It's got a really big, satisfying sound, and it seals all the way down perfectly now. It's been set up, and it's great. So a big criticism you get of a lot of basses, and that actually I'd seen of this bass before buying it, is that the D in the middle of the instrument is really stuffy. And to be honest, it's not quite as bad as I'd expected, but it is stuffy. If I kind of play up around that area and then go down to the D, that... You hear it's got that kind of stuffy sound, and if you're going across the register, that... It's kind of fine. It's not brilliant. I've been led to believe from some reviews that it was almost unplayable, but I would say it's perfectly usable. The other thing that I'd probably do, which is a much nicer note on this, is if you played a D, but instead of using the octave key, use the palm D key to vent it, you get a much brighter, cleaner sound. That's kind of. So you hear that difference. So if you ever end up on a long held D, you can just do that kind of. You can go for that fingering, and it's much more open. It does play, again, I'd seen some kind of tuning criticisms of this sax, but actually I think it's pretty solid. It's I mean, it probably is a bit sharp at the top, but no more than you would expect on any other sax. I mean, any sax this size, you're going to be doing a bit of work on it. But I'll just play the full range. I'll start in the middle, go down to the bottom, and then back up. So. See here, it's kind of all working absolutely fine. And the keys, I would say, all fall under the fingers very nicely. Everything is kind of where you'd expect. So you can do all the kind of. Kind of it all just works. I do some scales and things there. You see it all kind of plays absolutely fine, and I don't think I particularly played basses that respond much better than this, to be honest. I mean, for the money, this is fairly incredible. I've played some vintage basses before that can actually be a bit of a pig to play, and I would say this is much easier to play than a lot of the old vintage ones. Possibly the sound isn't quite as rich, but I mean, I think it makes a hefty enough sound that. You can kind of really get some volume out of it at the bottom, and it's got a great feel to it. So that gives you a bit of an overview of this Thomann bass sax. I think I've probably covered pretty much everything. It comes in a fairly decent case, which actually has good wheels on it, which makes a big difference. If you've got any questions, anything else you want to know about it, drop a message in the comments. If you've got anything you want to hear me try and play on it, let me know. But yeah, if you're in the market for a bass sax, you can't go wrong with this one.